All right, it is that time for our weekly reading assessment on the story that we have discussed all week. Um, I want to also give you guys almost like a warning, so it's not a surprise, but it's nothing bad. For the first half of the year, I always read everything aloud, the questions, the stories, all of that, especially for tests. Now, after winter break, I am going to start just simply assigning you guys the tests without reading the questions and story aloud. And this is to prepare you for working a bit more independently when it comes to the STAR test or any other tests moving forward. Now, know that even on the STAR test, when you are asked questions about a story, you will have the story available to go back to. This week, just so it's easier to find, I went ahead and attached the story in Google Slides so you can go back to it to answer the comprehension questions that are on our assessment. Utilize the tools that I give you guys to ensure that those are easy questions that you can get correct. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start reading each of the questions and then the short story at the end of the test that you have to answer a few more additional questions with. What is the genre of the story Granddaddy's Turn, A Journey to the Ballot Box? What is the author's purpose in this story? What's his purpose for writing the story? Who is the narrator in this story? I woke up to the cock-a-doodle-doo of my pet rooster and the chugga-chugga-chugga of my granddaddy's tractor. This sentence gives us a clue about what in the story. Now, I talked briefly about the climax this week. I want you to think about that anchor chart that I had in Google Slides. Climax is like the most exciting part within the plot. Okay? It can either be the problem's been identified or really the best part of the story, it's the peak. So you have all of these different events leading up to the climax, and then events that follow the climax that lead to the resolution of that problem. Otherwise, you should know what setting is, characters, and plot. We fed animals, we milked cows, and we worked in the fields. This sentence gives me a clue where the story takes place. Where does the story take place? What does the grandfather say over and over again that tells us that the grandson does not wait calmly? When the two characters start walking down the road, where does the narrator think they are going with Granddaddy dressed in his best suit? So think back to the beginning of the story when Granddaddy got all dressed up. Don't tell me where they actually are going. I want to know where the narrator thought they were going. Why did Granddaddy say this was the happiest day of his life? What kind of test did the deputy give Granddaddy before he was allowed to vote? How did Granddaddy finally get to vote? After getting turned away from voting, how do we know that Granddaddy is sad? I need you to not give me one clue, but two clues from the story that help us infer why he is sad or that he is sad. That's your text evidence. How was the deputy disrespectful to Granddaddy? Disrespectful, a synonym for disrespectful would be rude or unkind. Again, give me two examples from the story. Give me text evidence. All right, now we're moving along to the vocabulary. You are going to choose the word that has about the same meaning as the underlined word. Remember, we're finding synonyms. Juan figured that there would be many people interested in the book sale. Find a word that has a similar meaning as figured. My brother will complain while raking the leaves. What does complain mean? My dog shows great patience when he waits for a treat. What does patience mean? My brother has a terrible temper when he loses a basketball game. What does temper mean? Which word is a synonym for remembered in the sentence below? I just remembered that I'm supposed to meet Emma this afternoon. All right, moving on to our selection that also is the same genre as Granddaddy's Turn. I'm going to read the text for you and then again ask you each of these questions. To Pittsburgh. It was 1960 and I was 10 years old. It was the year when my parents told me we were moving to Pittsburgh. I had lived in Kansas all of my life. My family owned a farm there, and my sisters and I were used to getting up at the crack of dawn to milk the cows. We were used to catching fireflies in great big fields at night. Moving far away to a city made us nervous. In Pittsburgh, you can walk to the park and library from our house. Bill, my mother said to me, she knew I would like that. In Kansas, I always complained about how long it took when our family needed to drive into town. I was still nervous, but I was a little excited too. We packed our things into the truck. My sisters and I waved goodbye to our cousins. My father could tell I was sad as we pulled away and left them behind. Sometimes you have to take the bad with the good, my father said. They will visit us soon. We got on the highway and started our long trip. My oldest sister patted my leg to comfort me, and we drove for hours. Everyone was tired and grumpy. Our old truck hit a rock, and we heard a loud noise. We got out and saw that we had a flat tire. Well, this will set us back a few hours, said my father. We're never going to make it to Pittsburgh tomorrow. My mom and sisters grumbled. They were tired of traveling and wanted to sleep in a bed. Sometimes you have to take the bad with the good, I said. Let's keep going. My father looked at me and smiled. He put the spare tire on the truck while my mom looked at the map. She found a small town where we could stop, get the tire fixed, and take a break. The next day, we made it to Pittsburgh. The sentence from the selection that suggests the narrator is uncertain about the move is what? So you need to read each of these choices, maybe go back to the story and identify it and determine what helps prove that the narrator is uncertain about the move. The father's statement that sometimes you have to take the bad with the good suggests what? What does that saying mean? The narrator of the selection changes from what? How does his attitude or his viewpoint change from the beginning of the story to the end of the story? And then finally, think about the actions and words of the narrator's father, mother, and sister in the selection. How do they help the reader understand how the narrator is feeling about moving? Again, when it comes to your short answer responses, make sure you are typing in complete sentences and using punctuation. Good luck, guys.